Merhaba değerli izleyiciler. Anadolu'da sosyal işletmecilik kapsamında bugün 20. Ulusal Pazarlama ve Social Business at Anadolu Kongrelerinde davetli konuşmacı hocalarımızla birlikteyiz. Bu programda sosyal pazarlama konusunda literatüre değerli katkıları bulunan Profesör Samir Deşpande'yi konuk ediyoruz. Kendisiyle sosyal sorumlu pazarlama girişimlerinde paydaş pazarlama yaklaşımı üzerine konuşacağız. Yüksek lisans ve doktora eğitimini Wisconsin-Madison Üniversitesi'nde gerçekleştirmiş olan Deşpand, şu anda Kanada'da bulunan Lethbridge Üniversitesi İşletme Fakültesi ve Sosyal Sorumlu Pazarlama Faaliyetleri Merkezi'nde görev yapmaktadır. Kendisinin ilgi alanları arasında pazarlama iletişimi, iletişim ve medya, kurumsal sosyal sorumluluk ve sosyal pazarlama gibi konular yer almaktadır. Deşpande çok sayıda araştırma projesinde yürütücü ve araştırmacı olarak yer almıştır. Aynı zamanda Kanada, Hindistan, Avustralya, Amerika Birleşik Devletleri ve Birleşik Krallık'ta kar amacı gütmeyen kuruluşlara, hükümetlere ve özel sektöre yönelik olarak çok sayıda sosyal pazarlama konusunda eğitim ve danışmanlık hizmetleri vermektedir. So, Professor Deşpand, welcome to Anadolu University.
Thank you very much.
We are delighted to be here with you today. So, as a first question on the topic, may I ask, what do you mean by social marketing?
So, in 1970s, late 60s and 70s, Professor Philip Kotler coined this word, social marketing, whose basic implication was, can we sell brotherhood like Coke? So, can we think of utilizing the basic commercial marketing principles instead of trying to sell commercial products and services, can we use them to address social issues by promoting desired behaviors in specific target audience, by providing attractive alternatives in the environment such that individuals and groups find it attractive to embrace this new behavior. And so that is, in a nutshell, what social marketing is. To give a small, quick example, there's a huge campaign these days on addressing obesity. And one of the ways to address obesity is people should be eating healthy food, which is nutritious, which is low in cholesterol, low in fat, low in sugar, low in salt. So a social marketer would try to promote such healthy food in an attractive manner, and in a way then convince individuals and groups to eat less junk food. So that's a clear example of how one could use marketing to do good and solve social problems.
Yeah, I see. So, Professor, we are talking about stakeholders marketing approach. What do you mean by stakeholders in the context of social marketing? And who are the key stakeholders?
Stakeholder would be a person, an individual, or a group or an organization that has a stake in or an influence on the activities, and of course we're talking about marketing activities here, of the marketer. So, for example, if you are a non-profit organization or even a commercial organization trying to come up with a marketing campaign to convince people to eat less salt, there are individuals and organizations who would be interested in your initiative to promote less salt food. For example, companies that make salt would have a stake in your campaign. Governments making policies would have a stake in your campaign. So stakeholder marketing is basically identifying these stakes and then trying to address them so that the benefits are increased and the barriers and the opposition is reduced to your campaign, so that you achieve the objectives and goals that you have set out for yourself in your marketing initiative.
Yeah, I see. Professor, could you please explain us how social marketers identify these stakeholders, and what process do social marketers follow to identify these stakeholders?
Traditionally, the emphasis of doing stakeholder marketing which can be done at downstream level, midstream, which is with people who interact with the consumers, and upstream, people who create the products and services or form policies. They have been addressed by identifying who these stakeholders are and then try to identify the kind of influence they bring to the campaign. And then individually at each stakeholder level, you're trying to address their influence. So for example, if continuing with our example of sodium reduction campaign, if a salt producing company finds it important that they have a stake and they're going to voice their opinion on such a campaign, as a social marketer, I would go to the salt producing company and talk to them, have a discussion, and try to understand what could be some of their opposition to a campaign, and try to arrive at an individual level, at a meeting ground, at a place where both the marketer and the salt producing company finds a solution which is win-win solution. Yeah. So traditionally, the approach has been to start with the stakeholder, identifying their stake, and then addressing their stake, so that we become partners in the campaign, and the campaign becomes effective and efficient. Yeah. So that's a traditional approach. Yes. But many times, nonprofits, governments, or even the corporate social responsibility departments of companies do not have the resources to go through these stakeholders, especially because in social marketing context, you have many, many stakeholders. And to identify them, identify their stake, and address each one of those stakes takes a lot of time, money, and effort. Yeah. So an alternative could be to, instead of going by stakeholder, is to make your starting point to be an issue. And so there are issues which may manifest stake of several stakeholders, but there are fewer issues than the stakeholders themselves. Yeah. And so an alternative could be to use what Igor Ansoff conceived in 1970s called the issue-based management approach, where we can say, let's go after the issues. And so in the sodium reduction campaign, if the major issue is people's commitment or desire to eat salty food. Now this desire for salt is an issue that I think grapples several stakeholders. Yeah. So can we address the issue of taste while reducing salt intake in your food? Can we eat good food which is not salty? Yeah. And that's an issue that can, I think, manifest stake of several stakeholders. And that is a newer way, I believe more efficient way of addressing stakeholders' influence and yet achieving our objectives and goals. So there are many ways, traditional way, issue-based management way of carrying out stakeholder marketing initiatives.
Yeah, I see. Professor, how do social marketers manage relationship with these stakeholders? I wonder that, can we say that relationship marketing is an extension of stakeholder marketing approach?
So, because nonprofit, government organizations are not exactly blessed with a lot of resources as much as multinational companies are, it's important that they form partnerships with other nonprofit organizations. And this kind of consortia approach with other organizations that address similar cause, I think is the best way, and I think the most often utilized way by social marketers to address these stakeholders. Yeah. And so that's the way that social marketers should be doing stakeholder marketing, and I think is done in that fashion. Is relationship marketing an extension of stakeholder marketing? I would say so, because relationship marketing is trying to look at these stakeholders, especially the target audience, as a lifetime partner, as opposed to looking at them as on a traditional basis. So relationship marketing actually enables marketers to consider stakeholders more seriously and on a long-term basis than traditional approaches would be, or not to address stakeholders at all. And more importantly, it ensures sustainability of the campaigns, which is important for nonprofits because they get funding for a year or 2 year period. But you really want consumers or the target audience to carry out the behavior on an ongoing basis. You want people to eat less salt forever, rest of their life, not just for 1 year or 2 year period. And so to do that, relationship marketing is important because you're ensuring lifetime relationship.
Yeah, I see. So, Professor, what kind of challenges are there in practice? For instance, stakeholder could change their positions and new stakeholders could emerge in the process, etc.
Yeah, I really like that question because it assumes or it ensures that we don't consider stakeholders' stake as something that is static or something that's frozen in time. It is not.
Yes.
Stakeholders change.
Yes.
Stakeholders' stake changes with time, with events, with society, with culture.
Yeah.
And so it's important that it's almost like a moving needle, and you have to identify where the needle is at that point of time when you're creating the campaign. So your question about challenges is goes back to my point about lack of resources, lack of time, lack of money. But to some extent, and I think that goes at the basis of this problem or the challenge, is lack of ability and lack of motivation.
Yeah.
Nonprofits and governments don't just seem to have the ability to manage the stakeholders because they have not given enough thought to their influence. And that goes to the lack of motivation, which means many times, especially the government organizations, don't understand how important it is that other stakeholders can actually derail your campaign. And that creates some kind of inertia, that creates some kind of lack of motivation, which again emanates from lack of orientation to stakeholders. So the major challenge, I would say, because time, money, and resources can be found, the real challenge, I think, is lack of ability and lack of motivation. If motivation comes to the table, you can create ability and you can bring the resources to the table.
Yes,
and
right.
I would say that is the main challenge here. And again, relationship marketing is allowing nonprofits and governments to appreciate the reasons to work with these stakeholders.
Yeah, I see. Regarding the things we have told, could you say that there is a lack of stakeholder marketing approach? And then what are the reasons for the lack of stakeholder marketing?
The issue with lack of resources and the lack of motivation, as I said, is the primary cause of the number of campaigns that you see that just don't seem to address the stakeholders' influence. I have experienced personally several examples where the organization that forms the policy and allocates the budget, which normally is the national governments or the international non-profit organizations or the aid organizations, land up creating campaigns without consulting the stakeholders. A good example is prevention efforts in Asia and Africa to promote condoms to prevent HIV/AIDS, just as an example.
Yes.
These international aid agencies and the national governments are creating policies and allocating budgets without asking the end beneficiary as well as the community-based organizations that actually create the campaigns and implement the campaigns. They are never consulted, or they are very rarely consulted in terms of what could be done and how could it be done. Even if they are consulted, I have experienced that they don't seem to follow up with their campaigns in their stakeholder marketing initiatives, which means that they bring you to the table, they ask you questions, they try to understand your problems, and then a report is made, but nothing is done after that. It's a half-hearted effort, even if you do stakeholder consultations and don't follow up. And that can really anger and frustrate the organizations that actually have committed themselves to solving the cause and solving the social problem. And so I think it is this inertia and is holier than thou approach. I know what is best for you and I'll do my way. You will just do whatever I tell you. Doesn't work anymore, especially in democratic countries.
Yes.
Because people have voice, people have opinions,
Yes.
and they will express their opinions in whichever way they sound fit and appropriate. And in today's social media active world, it's very easy for people to express their opinion very quickly and loudly. So in today's social media frenzy world, stakeholder marketing is even more important. It cannot be neglected. And again, with social media, it has become easier to do stakeholder consultation and stakeholder management.
Yes.
So I would say there are even fewer reasons for governments and nonprofits not to do so stakeholder marketing.
Okay. So, Professor, finally, regarding the things we have talked on the topic, is there anything else that you want to discuss that you think we haven't covered yet?
I would say I would make a special request to organizations who are interested in convincing the behaviors of target audience that it's important to understand a target audience, but it's equally important to go beyond the target audience and understand what could be the likely role of certain organizations and individuals who are not the target audience in the behavior change initiative.
Yeah.
We have several examples, for example, in the Indian context, in the effort to promote condoms, to promote family planning and prevent HIV/AIDS. Individuals and organizations that you wouldn't believe have any stake in the behavior change initiative suddenly find their voice and create problems for you. So I would urge the governments and nonprofits and also the CSR, the corporate social responsibility departments of the companies, to do a solid groundwork in listing the stakeholders and their influence and the issues that underlie those stakes and address those issues so that they don't face a problem once they start doing the campaign, because that just delays the whole effort and creates problems in effectiveness and efficiency.
Yes, yes. Professor, thank you for your kind attendance and such important sharing on the topic.
Thank you.
Değerli izleyiciler, Anadolu'da sosyal işletmecilik kapsamında bugün Profesör Samir Deşband'ı konuk ettik. Bir başka programda farklı bir konu ve konukla tekrar bir arada olmak dileğiyle. Hoşça kalın.